Right, we'll call this meeting to order, the Budget Personnel Committee, Monterey One Water. In the boardroom. Roll call, please.
Castroville,
Here.
San City, Marina Coast,
Here.
Monterey.
Here.
Okay, is there any additions to the agenda?
No additions.
Nothing? Anything from directors? No? Okay, approval agenda, we need a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any public discussion? Question? Do we have any public online? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion carries. Now's the time for public comments. Anyone to address the committee on matters not appearing on today's agenda may do so now. Don't see any public. Okay. Move on to business items. 6A, consider approval of Budget Personnel Committee minutes of September 12th, 2025.
So move. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimous. Move on to item B. Receive preliminary budget for the fiscal year 26-27 wastewater fund and Monterey County Water Resources Agency. I think we're turning it over to Lawrence.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair, Vice Chair, and member of the committee. I'm Lawrence Chu, Director of Finance. Today, I'm presenting the fiscal year 2027 wastewater fund and the Monterey County Water Resources Agency preliminary budget. I'll present the Pure Water Monterey budget in April. Slide 2, please. The agenda today includes the strategic objective in the proposed budget, major accomplishment for the current fiscal year, and the performance goal for the next fiscal year. I will also provide an overview of the wastewater fund budget and the Monterey County Water Resources Agency budget. And finally, we're looking at the fiscal year 2027 capital project. Next slide, please. This slide shows the strategic objectives included in the budget. We leverage technology to improve efficiency. We anticipate change in the industrial policy and adjust our operations. We implement innovative approach to become the net neutral on water and energy. We develop a leadership partner to ensure a talent workforce, and we engage community to enhance trust and transparency. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the goals for the proposed budget. We are committed to invest in the agency infrastructure. Staff will present a water rate structure and a cost allocation plan to the board for adoption before June. We provide timely maintenance of the wastewater system to ensure reliability. We assist the low-income customer with customer assistance program. It is important to note that the customer assistance program is funded by the long-fee revenue of the wastewater fund. We implement the best practice in cybersecurity, and we also explore options to expand use of renewable energy. Next slide, please. This slide highlights a major accomplishment in the current fiscal year, including no sewer overflow in the current fiscal year. LTP celebrates 35 years of successful operations. We replaced the emergency power generator and add EV charging station. Engineering department complete the master plan for the LTP upgrade, and finance department update the investment strategies to optimize investment return. In addition, the agency conduct wastewater rate study and the cost allocation plan study in the current fiscal year. Next slide, please. This slide summarizes a major accomplishment on recycled water side. M1W completed Pure Water Monterey expansion, and over 5,000 acre-feet of water will be injected into the seaside groundwater basin. On the agricultural irrigation, M1W refurbished the SVLP transformer to increase the reliability. And over 4,000 acre-feet of water divert from Salina rivers for seaside irrigation. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the energy reliability improvement project. M1W began operation of food waste receiving and co-digestion to increase biogas production. We also complete the design of the renewable energy improvement. And the transmission line and power delivery from Regen are planned in spring 2026. Now we look at the goals for the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. Information Service Department will complete the Enterprise Resource Planning System implementation upgrade and also the access control for the RTP. M1W will start the construction on Renewable Energy Program, the RTP. In addition, Energy Department will start preliminary engineering for the RTP upgrade. The proposed budget includes funding for the Customer Assistance Program from non-fee revenue and the Customer Outreach on Rate structure. Now we're looking at the detail of the fiscal year 2027 operating budget. Next slide, please. Monterey Water has 6 funds to account for its operation. Fund 1 is the wastewater fund, which accounts for the day-to-day operation of the agency. Fund 3 is the Renewable Energy Fund. Fund 4 is a SVLP, Fund 5 CSIP, and Fund 6 is SLDF. Those are the funds related to the WRA operations. Fund 58 is the Pure Water Monterey Fund. Next slide, please. I'll going through this slide very slowly. This table divides into 2 portions. The top portion is the project revenue. Total project revenue for the fiscal year 2027 is $103 million. The total project revenue highlight include the VFIA loan project revenue of $12 million. Now we're looking at the lower part of the table. The project expenditure highlight in green is $102 million. This amount includes $55 million in operating expense, $37 million in the wastewater fund capital project, and $10 million in the transfer from the wastewater fund to the renewable energy fund capital project. I'll provide you with more detailed information on the capital project in the next few slides. In addition, the proposed budget includes $200,000 set aside for the Customer Assistance Program. Next slide, please. The wastewater fund includes $2.4 million set aside for the operating contingency and $1.9 million set aside for the capital contingency. Now we look at the definition of the operating contingency. Operating contingency are the funds set aside for unexpected operating expense, and capital contingency are funds set aside for unexpected equipment replacement. Next slide, please. This table summarizes the proposed budget submitted to Monterey County Water Resources Agency in January. Total proposed budget to WRA is $12.4 million. SVLP is projected at $8.6 million. This amount includes $2.5 million capital improvement project on switchgear replacement. CSIP project budget is $2.2 million. SLDF proposed budget is $1.6 million. And staff will present the revised budget to WRA in the next budget session. This is only the original proposed budget. I want to clarify that. Now we look at the Fund 3 is the Renewable Energy Fund. Total budget for the Renewable Energy Fund, including capital budget, is $12.5 million. Next slide, please. Total project revenue for fiscal year 2027 is $103 million. This includes assumption of an 8% rate increase effective July 1st, and $12 million VFIA financing on energy-related capital project. The pie chart below shows the major revenue source of the wastewater fund. Over 60% of the revenue are from the residential user fee and 15% from commercial user fee. Next slide, please. The pie chart on the right summarizes the project operating expense of the wastewater fund at 54.5 million. 46% of the expenditure are for salary and benefit, and the remaining are for the operating expense and the contingency fund. Next slide, please. The next few slides, I'll be focusing on the CIP for the wastewater fund and the WRA and the renewable energy. The table below summarizes the proposed wastewater fund capital project. Engineering department proposed 5 capital projects, total 36 million. The project includes RTP electrical update and interconnection with SVRP and AWPF. The second project is the solid handling and resource recovery. Next project is the preliminary engineering of the RTP upgrade. The fourth project is the Monterey Pump Station and Seaside Pump Station project. And the last project is the Coral Street Pump Station upgrade. So the total recommendation coming from the engineering department is 36.3 million. Now we're looking at the second part of the table. Information Service Department proposed 3 capital projects totaling 1 million. The project includes ERP system implementation, access control, and CMMS. Next slide, please. Now we look at the renewable energy. We propose a 12.5 million on the renewable energy. And finally, for the SVRP WRA, we propose a 2.5 million switchgear replacement project for the fiscal year 26 and 27. Any question on the CIP before I move on to the next session?
So just to highlight the 2.5 million on SVRP, we have provided that early on to ARA and the rest of their staff. We know it's a big ticket item, particularly for Water Resources Agency to pay for a capital improvement project of that magnitude. So they have been discussing it with the growers in the CSIP area and looking for ways to potentially finance this. Obviously, the downside of a failure in this equipment is there's no recycled water, and there's really no backup if this were to fail. This 30-year-old gear is, it's old and it's past its useful life. Maintenance and others have done a great job, like pulling one of the transformers and getting it refurbished and putting it back there to have a little more reliability. But overall, it's a concern.
Mayor
Mayor
first. What are the implications on our agency if there is a failure?
So is Matt on here?
Yeah.
Matt, maybe you can talk to this, but generally speaking, if this fails, it's directly to SVRP. It's not an implication to the rest of the regional treatment plant or AWPF. It is specific to up there. Hence the reason, as you well know, we're doing a very large project for our own electrical to upgrade it and make it more resilient, as well as set ourselves up for the renewable energy in the future. But Matt, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, that's it, Paul. That's the way I see it as well.
And now, as a clarify, so what happens to that water if the system goes down? Like what happens?
Okay, so if there was a complete failure on the electrical side for the Salinas Valley Reclamation Project, we would not be able to produce recycled water to put out into the CSIP distribution system. The water that's coming to the plant would then, frankly, probably go out the outfall because there's only a subset that is necessary for Pure Water Monterey. Yeah, it would be a very unfortunate circumstance, particularly when we're trying to provide recycled water and river water so as to minimize the supplemental wells that are used.
And Tyler, if I may elaborate, this electrical gear at SVRP, its major function is to power the pumps that divert what's coming out of our regional treatment plant and pump it up the hill and into the tertiary treatment process at SVRP. So if this electrical gear fails, we literally would not have the ability to move that water up the hill. And so it would just flow by gravity into the ocean outfall.
Okay, thank you.
Um, let's see, making list of questions here, and they're in no particular order. So I'm trying to keep to the, oh, yes. Not only does County Water Resources Agency need to approve this CIP project, but don't they have to approve the budgets for all three of the funds?
Yes,
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry, Lauren.
yes, they have to approve all the three funds.
Do they have a budget and personnel committee?
They do have a finance committee at the WRA to review the budget proposal.
Like the Board of Supervisors, so it's going to determine how much.
Well, this is, maybe it's 5% off topic, but shouldn't they be in the room with us today?
I
Well,
would be.
because today we are just preparing the proposed budget and we are still working with a revised budget. Once we have the revised budget, then both parties can have a further discussion on the budget because it's a very preliminary budget stages.
Okay, fair enough.
Generally what happens, Tom, is we submit the budget to them.
Right.
And then they, of course, go through it. They have a very specific time frame because they need to look at it at Water Resources Agency, get it approved, as well as the Board of Supervisors. So there's always, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. We can certainly change it, but there's always been that separation is that we work with their staff and our staff, develop the budget, and it goes over to them to nod of the head or can you verify this or that. The overall agency budget is then approved by us, which includes obviously the four components.
So,
We've had meetings in the last 2 weeks with their staff and have reduced our budget that we're submitting as far as the proposed budget for WRA. And so they basically told us to segregate out the CIP and that they would have to find out if they've got funding, but they were fine. I know it's not officially fine, but they were fine with our O&M and we tweaked a few numbers and it's actually less than last year's budget.
So I have no doubt staff has been working hard to make those connections, particularly given the events the last year and a half. My only thought is we might consider somewhere in this process a joint meeting so that those of us on this committee and those of this on their equivalent committee would have an opportunity to hear the same briefing, sit in the same room, hear one another's concerns that might improve connections that we, I think, recognize need some degree of improvement. Just an idea. Anyway, and not to be determined today.
Thank you. And it.
If I could just provide a little bit, for whatever it's worth, I don't know if it's worth doing that. Because I think their constraint is their budget and they're trying to figure out how to fall within that. I think we have to do our due diligence in making sure that we're being clear in regards to what we're communicating the needs are. And from there, they're going to have to figure out, working with the Board of Supervisors, how they're going to pay for that, if at all.
My own thought is if it can be easily arranged, the more, if you will, personal connections you make, the less likely there are future communications disconnects. But again, I think that's a staff and board decision not to be made today.
Yeah.
And I saw Paul taking a note, so.
You know, I was going to say, we've also had the discussion in the past about joint board meetings and other things. When R and I get together and talk globally about the continued leadership meetings, whether that be a quarterly basis, you know, how else do we want to add or not to those sort of interactions? So I will bring that up.
Yeah, and obviously they would want to do it too or not, as the case may be.
Yeah.
Takes two to tango. Thank you. I'll have more questions when this is done.
If the switchgear goes out, no river water either, right?
That's a good question. Is SRDF electrical on a separate area here, Matt? Because couldn't we, I thought this was specific to SVRP. We'd still be able to provide electric to SRDF to bring, that amount of acre feet in.
Well, the Salinas River Diversion Facility is fed power from a separate service
Okay.
than this. And so as the pump station at the Salinas River Diversion Facility, we'd still be able to move water up and into the SVRP pond.
Yeah.
There'd be some appurtenances such as chlorination, et cetera, that we'd have to bring in some standby power. But it'd be a modest amount of standby power. But I think we could still make it work
So,
temporarily.
Well, for
Yeah, to that point,
clarification, we wouldn't have chlorine, so we wouldn't be able to treat it.
but if this thing failed, we could bring river water in. Like Tammy and Matt just said, we wouldn't have power up there to do chlorine. So, could we bring in some temporary power into the little mixing structure? The other thing is, yeah, that's a lot of water we can get. I don't know that we have enough driving head in the pond to produce the pressure going all the way out to the system with just river water. So that's something that, the Jose's of the world would have to play with.
Yeah.
Obviously, if that were to happen, we'd all be scrambling. And I'm sure Water Resources would want to rent a generator and park it up there, and then you get into airboard stuff. It's an issue.
What you said just made me think of a additional implication associated with them not funding this. There's still a cost borne by us having to maintain, operate. So whether it's the chemicals or whatever, so there's still a cost to them associated with that, even though the system potentially goes down, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else? Back to Lawrence.
Next slide, please. Now we look at the summary of the debt service payment. I'm pleased to announce that Wastewater Fund pay off the Series 2012 and 2013 bond debt in June 2026. So in fiscal year 2027, there's no bond or debt service payment in the Wastewater Fund. And
That's sort of amazing, by the way. Like since I've been here, I've been looking to that date because we have the end of the borrowing. So that is phenomenal. It probably won't last that long.
Celebrate it while you can.
Yeah.
The USBR bonds mature in 2037. The outstanding balance is 7.7 million, and WRA paid the annual debt service of 1 million. Now we look at the Pure Monterey. SRF loan on the Pure Monterey will mature on 2049. The outstanding balance is 88 million. The annual debt service is approximately 4.2 million. Next slide, please.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
though? To the chair, on the prior slide. So the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation bond interest is pretty bad. And it's only $7.7 million. Is there a way we can refinance
Refinancing.
that at a much lower rate?
Yeah, we can look at that option, but we need to work closely with WRA before we do any bond financing.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll work with them at the staff level first and then report back to board.
But if there was some way to do that, I would expect they would be enthusiastically happy about that.
Yeah. Aren't there within the USBR bond documents, aren't there two interest rates depending where the water is used?
I need to double check.
Okay. Because for some reason I'm remembering back then, you may remember this, Ron. There was, if it was used for ag, the interest rate was X, and it may be 7.6. I thought it was lower. But then there was a trigger if the water was going to be used elsewhere, not within the ag community, it would pop the interest rate up. So you had to be very careful on the usage. We'll check into that, but
Yeah, and if that is true about this loan, maybe this slide needs to be modified to
yeah.
show that weird feature.
Okay, next slide, please. Now we look at the pension and fund actuarial liability. The UL is the difference between the amount of future benefit a pension fund is expected to pay out and the asset presently in the pension fund. In fiscal year 27, the budget included $400,000 contribution to the Section 115 pension trust to prefund the unfunded actuarial liability. The table below summarizes the UAL for the as of June 30th, 2024. That's a 3-year timeline when CalPERS put together the actuarial report. So we are looking at approximately 34.9 million as of June 30th, 2024, and the annual payment is approximately 3.7 million. And the payment will be through 2044. Next slide, please. Now we look at the BPC and the board meeting schedule for the next few months. The draft cost allocation plan will be presented to the BPC and the board in March. And based on our latest discussion, the draft survey presentation will be scheduled in March instead of April. And the budget workshop is scheduled in April, May, and in June. And this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any question that you may have.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. Go ahead.
Could we go back one slide? So the numbers in the table in the bottom half, these are all, they're not solid numbers. They fluctuate tremendously from year to year based on
Investment return, mortality
CalPERS
rate.
investment returns, based on how much we're paying our employees, based on which employees are in which tier. So do we have any inkling of whether that 34.9 million is going to be bigger or smaller next year?
I think the biggest driving force behind that is the CalPERS investment return. If the investment good, then you see that rate and even the total amount will be going down just slightly. And again, as we know, as the agency is hiring more prepper member, so this will help to offset some of the increase in the future. The more prepper member, the lower the rate, the lower UAL in the future.
Okay. Some other questions going back a little further. Maybe this isn't an easy to answer question today, but you showed in performance for the past, excuse me, fiscal year, 4,700 acre feet from the Salinas River. Why do we not take more?
Matt, do you have the answer? Technical question.
Tammy, I think you might. I think Tammy might be in a better position to answer this. I know that there are restrictions on periods of time when we can draw water from the Salinas River.
Yeah.
it
So
varies based on hydrology.
So the permit only allows so much. I'm sorry, so much time. And I'm going to guess, I think it was May 15th through October 1st ballpark that we can take it off the river. The permit itself allows up to, I believe, 12,000 acre feet per year. We've never hit 12,000. I think the best we did was either last year or the year before, we had about 9,000, 90 something hundred acre feet, which is quite a bit. It depends on the year, though. So, for instance, if we go back to 2022, when the dams were not releasing any water, there was 0 SRDF water. Now we move forward to 23. Even this year, there was enough release that it lasted all the way through the permitted time frame. So then it's a matter of balancing the river water that you take in and add to it with recycled water. I mentioned the driving head. All that means is how full can we make that pond so we have the water being pushed out? And that's what, when we talk about what operations does, it's pretty amazing on a day-to-day basis to anticipate the changes and in demand, changes in temperature, everything. So it's sort of the amount of river water we use has a number of variables that dictates what we do. I'm going to say 10 years ago, the philosophy was use as much recycled water as possible and minimize river water. So that sort of shifted because river water is generally of better quality from a TDS perspective than our recycled water.
Right.
And to a certain degree, it's less expensive. I don't even begin to understand some of the permit conditions that Water Resources Agency lives under in terms of keeping the lagoon level at certain elevations and the environmental flows that are necessary. So they're keeping an eye on that as well. So there's a number of things. And I know that doesn't exactly answer your question, Tom, but
So-
we try to push a lot.
But is this mostly done by O&M staff looking at these various constraints and trying to do the best they can in putting river water into the holding pond based on demands from the growers, time of year, permit limitations, fish flows, and all the rest of that?
It's entirely done that way with one other variable is what we're being told by Water Resources Agency staff on how they would like to see it operated as well. There's, you mentioned the finance committee that Water Resources Agency has. We also have the Water Quality and Ops committee. And although they don't dictate anything, they certainly state their preferences in water quality, quantities, and all that sort of stuff. So it's probably more of an art with the operators.
Do they have any mathematical models to assist with this process?
They have, I wouldn't say mathematical models or algorithms. You're going down the AI track almost of could we be predictive in what's happening and what we're going to need? It is more of a database that Allison and Murren, one of our consultants, put together that is looking at this plethora of flows coming in and out of the plant and going and where they're going and the timing of them, because obviously the timing is terribly important. That the operators have their hands on a lot of data, and this particular database compiles all that data in a more usable format than we had, say, 4 years ago. I also know that Frank Rich is looking into some software that will do a very similar function as the custom one we have, but the interface may be a little nicer.
Well, what you describe sounds like, I'm not sure if it's classical or not, but it certainly sounds like it's an optimization problem, and not 5 or 6 miles away, we have a whole department of experts in mathematical optimization models in the form of the Operations Research Department at the Naval Postgraduate School. The Navy has, oddly enough, some interest in water. So might be worth an inquiry to see if anybody'd like to take a look at that kind of complicated optimization problem with lots of constraints and a lot of dynamic change within those constraints. But there is modeling. That's an area of study at any rate. Okay.
And I would contend it's probably a confluence of an optimization problem and chaos theory.
Could very well be. Slide 11. Now you get a different. So on slide 11, you show 91 million in revenue. Now there was another pie chart slide that sort of broke that out. But I'm wondering if slide 11 ought to list the revenue sources, or maybe I don't have a hard and fast opinion on this because you had that other slide.
Yeah, on slide 14, there's a pie
14.
chart that shows residential 65, commercial 16,
Right.
other 10, and then WIFI is 12, which is on the second line item on slide 11.
So on slide 14, what I don't see clearly is revenue from the County Water Resources Agency.
The revenue from the County Resources Agency is booked in the other revenue as the indirect cost that we get from the Water Resources Agency. It was captured in the other revenue.
Slide 14 is specific just the wastewater fund, not the SVRP, CSIP, SRDF fund. And so the other is the indirect charge cost, some of the indirect costs that come through.
Okay. So we don't see a similar chart like this for funds 3, 4, and 5.
It's for Fund 4, 5, and 6 because right now we are still in the stage of updating the revised budget with the WRA. So that's why we don't want to show that. And once we have the final revised budget coming back from the WRA, then we will show the fund for Fund 4, 5, and 6 in a pie chart showing the total revenue from the WRA, which should be equal to the expenditure that we have.
And so if we were, or when we do that, what that's going to look like ballpark based on 26 is total revenues coming from water resources in the ballpark of a little over $9 million. But you're going to see SVRP is 5.7 and CSIP is 2 and SRDF is 1.6. But those are the only revenues that are coming in for water resources. It's all coming from water resources. It's just what bucket it comes from.
Yeah. No, I get that. And assuming they approve the 2.5 for the electrical gear, that'll be shown as another presumably tranche of money coming from them.
Yes,
Yeah. And so in talking to Ara, he's looking at how to fund this. And, and in my mind, the simplest way is it's part of the SVRP budget because it's flowing into that, no pun intended. But they may have to segment it differently, whether it be part of a different borrowing or a contractual agreement with the growers to make a payment for a capital project. So we sort of carve that out and we're working with them. There is a growers meeting in March, I think March 6th, where there'll be some discussions on this.
Okay. I would suggest on slide 6, you show also the you also show the total CSIP output, or divided up between
Oh, I see what you're saying.
what came from wastewater and what came from the Salinas River. And
On the ag irrigation.
Yeah, in other words, what did we quote unquote sell?
Okay,
to-
we will
yeah.
change that and update the slide.
And then just historically, what happened to Fund 2?
Fund 2, we have already closed Fund 2, and Fund 2 become Fund 3, Fund 4, and Fund 5.
Fund 2
Origi-
was all of water resources, right?
Yes,
And they wanted to segment it more.
Oh, all from county water resources.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, got it. And why do we have a 2-digit fund number for Pure Water Monterey?
It just may be one of the lucky number 58.
What, am I missing a cultural reference here, somewhere where 58 is the lucky number and not 13?
6, 7.
Please.
That's what we should have named it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. This
Um,
meeting is going to go down in history right here.
And then one thing that could be confusing to some folks, we have these fund numbers, but we also have these department numbers, which seem to be related to the fund numbers. But what's the difference between the department number and the fund number?
Like, for example, as Fund 1 wastewater fund, we do have like a different department. So that means all different department will be, most of the department, they will be under Fund 1. And for WRA Fund 4, we have Department 50. And then Fund 5, we have Department 55. And Fund 6 is Department 57. So that means like a different department, they associate with different fund for budgeting purpose. Another very good example is Pure Monterey Fund 58. And department number is also the lucky number 58.
Lawrence, do you think this will change as we move to Oracle?
I don't anticipate this will be a changes because otherwise this will cause remapping of all those historical data. Because we want, when we roll over to the Oracle, we want to preserve the historical number as well. If you change all those number and the fund, then I mean some of the connection will have to remap.
So the thing that might be somewhat confusing is the meaning of the word department in this particular context, because coming from academia, I think of the mechanical engineering department and the physics department, but is Department 50 an actual group of people with a leader working for Paul? Or is it something in this finance?
Some of the agency I work with, they don't use the name department, they use program. As under Fund 1, you have 10 different programs. So that might be another consideration, change from department to programs.
So, for instance, Tom, administration, we're Department 10.
Yes.
What are you, 17? 18?
In general, that is how it works.
Yeah.
It's a department and you have a name. I'm 18. My name is Community Relations and I manage with a team that department.
So who is Department 50?
Department 50 is, if I'm correct, is it Jose?
Department 50 is SVRP, and yes, Jose is over 50. Daryl is over 55, which is CSIP, and 57 SRDF is Daryl. Both of those are under my purview.
But aren't they also in other departments?
Yes.
They are
Daryl and Jose?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what's operations, Tammy?
40, and Jose is in charge of 40. So Daryl's in charge. Jose's in charge of 40 and 50. And Daryl is in charge of coaching, utilities, all the field maintenance, which is departments 32, 35, 37, 39, and WRA's 55 and 57.
So we can certainly get you a list of all these if you would like.
I don't think I need a list. I'm just trying to get some confusion that,
Oh, I'm still confused about it.
yeah.
I've been here for
Well,
12
the-
years.
The suggestion you all just made that maybe the word program would be a better, more accurate description. Consider it. That's all. Just think about it. I think that was my list of questions.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
The only thing I would say, and it's more of just a comment, is I think the two things that I'm kind of looking forward to going in front of the board is how the numbers might change as it relates to the rate structure, rate increase. And then also what the final outcome is with the Water Resource Agency. So, right, the two hot things, I think.
So I do want to highlight something what you just said. You probably heard Lawrence say it. This budget that we're presenting is predicated on an assumed 8% rate increase. So if and when the board decides what the rate increase could be, that will change this budget. Another thing that's in here is a presumed $12 million funding for renewable energy from WIFIA. We think that's fine, and we have the agreement, we've gotten the okay, but there is an assumption there that the federal government is still going to pay us.
If I could just add one piece, I know one of the things that I brought up before, and I don't know if this is included in the proposed budget that was put together, but one of the things that I think would be helpful to get us on track, and I know we're going to be kind of tight here as we go into the rate conversation, but how do we incorporate, if at all, an additional reserve for our capital needs as opposed to the potential of having to do more debt financing.
Yes, we have that discussion with Will Dunn. So when we put together a rate structure, this will include building up a reserve for the capital project moving forward.
Wow, you're a superstar. Thank you. That's it for me.
That's it.
Thank you.
Anything else, Lawrence? That's it.
No, I don't have any other presentation.
All right, thank you. So we just received this. We don't need any action. Huh? Okay. So now we move into, is there any public comment?
He's online.
I don't see
Just
anybody.
staff.
Just make sure somebody's not listening. Okay, so we move into number 7, staff reports.
I have none.
No, I don't have any staff report.
I just want to give an update as far as SVRP. Due to the weather, we'll be probably in full production by next week. So just wanted to give you an FYI there. That's all I have.
Thanks, Sammy. Matt?
Nope.
No, I have
Okay.
nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Directors? Committee member? Nothing?
Thank you, staff, for
We'll go
good
ahead and
work.
adjourn
You
the
know,
meeting. Thank you all.
Budgeting is just such a fascinating thing to slog through. So thank you for your good work.